Clement with Kathy by Design. I'm so glad you could join me here today. It's summertime in North Carolina and it's hot, which always makes me think of the beach. So when ButterBee Scraps asked me to do another guest design post for them, I said, sure enough, why don't I do something beachy with Stamperia Sealand collection. I just love the colors. It's just like almost like taking a trip to the beach. So I designed a brand new style folio for y'all, and I do have a tutorial for how to build the base and all the different little mechanisms. I don't decorate it with you, but I do give you tips and tricks. It measures 5 by 7. It's a really fun flip design, and on the cover I went very mixed media with this one, and you will also get a tutorial on how to alter these beautiful ButterBee Scraps metals. Look at this sweet little vignette I built inside this antique drawer pull, and you will learn how to alter your metals to make them all look the same. So here's a bunch of beautiful charms, starfish, this nautilus I'm just crazy about, and then a precious little shell, oyster shell with a pearl inside. And I found this fishing gear on the beach after a storm, so I've looped it through one of the ButterBee Scraps hinge clips and just created a little dangle for the side. The focal point is this bottle in the sand, and this little tiny bottle you can get at ButterBee Scraps. It's so stinking cute. Filled this with sand, and there's an itty bitty teeny weeny shell in there. And then I've clustered pearls and shells and just created a real mixed media kind of seascape. This is a Tim Holtz seahorse that I cut from chipboard and treated with a bunch of Seth Apter embossing powders and Tim Holtz paints, and then spattered everything with diluted white acrylic paint. There's a wonderful bangle, and I look at this, it's like jewelry for your paper. This is another fishing lure piece that I found on the beach after a storm, and I've added all these gorgeous metal charms from ButterBee, and I will have links. I've got a lobster, this really sweet Dreaming of the Sea, a little sailboat, a ship's wheel, and then look at these guys. They are fantastic. They make me think of the floats that lobstermen and crabs cages have on them. I just love them. So that's the spine. Ribbon closure, and there's loads of fun inside this album. So we'll just open out to the first page, and right off the bat we have an interactive element with this wonderful pocket, and these are graphic 45 laser cut ATC tags, and I spelled out the word C. I've added some twine and beautiful charms. These are again those altered charms. That's going to be the first part of the tutorial that we do together. Here's a lighthouse, and here's a beautiful little mermaid. And I love how corroded these look. These look like they've been exposed to salt water, which is exactly what I was going for. And of course on the back, I've lined them so there's room for a little photo or a little journaling there. Then this is a little flip page, a little flap. And again, you learn how to build all these many mechanisms. And then here's a pocket. And this little guy, this is really fun. This is one of my favorite things to do. This is one of the long tags that Stamperia puts in their collection. So I just folded it into thirds. I used my craft knife to cut a little slot and then tucked the top down in there so it's a little hidden spot, and decorated it with some fussy cuts. And then this flips out yet again, and here is another fun flap feature. So this one just goes on and on. It's really fun. One of the wonderful bulldog clips from ButterBee. And let me just tell you, ButterBee is not in Canada. ButterBee is in the United States. There's some confusion about that, but they are US based now, so there's no international shipping fees. It's quick and easy to order. You should visit the website and check it out. There's just gorgeous stuff. A little turn tab here, and then on the back side a tuck spot, and this hinge clip is holding in 2 more of the images with journaling room on the back. So that's really fun. Then this is a pocket with a tag. These are chipboard pieces I had in my stash from Gypsy Soul laser cuts, and I just painted them up and sponged them and embossed them. Lots of mixed media in this. I don't get into that with you. The only mixed media we do is with the charms. So here's this, look at this octopus. He cracks me up. And a little seahorse, and this is a wooden tag I've had in my stash forever, and I just decoupaged a torn image from the collection, spattered it, added Seth Apter. Look how cool it is, baked texture. It looks like actual sand. It's really neat. And that just tucks in here, and the back is blank for a photo. And then this center pocket, you'll learn how to build this expandable pocket in the tutorial. This houses a couple of little cutout tags from the collection, so room for journaling, and then this really neat magnetic closure folio. And you will learn how to do this in the tutorial. So that brings us over here. Let me shift this so we stay in frame. And on this left side, I've got a waterfall with room for photos and journaling. Then this flips. Isn't that fun? You weren't expecting that, were you? So here's another pocket with another magnetic closure insert. And that tucks in here, and I had a little extra piece of the cardstock that we used to build the base, so I just turned it into a photo mount. This is 3 sheets of 11 by 17 18-point grocery bag that you can get from envelopes.com. And then this is a little pull-out page, again, more chipboard that I've altered with a pull-out photo area. And this tucks back into the hidden pocket, which you'll also learn how to build. And that is it. It's such a beautiful, I love the beach. Anything beachy makes me happy. The colors are wonderful. Stick around. We'll do the tutorial for altering the metals. And let's get our craft on. I'd like to start by showing you how to alter these embellishments. This is the little drawer pull, and this is how it comes in the finish, and I altered it. I wanted it to look copper. So also this really cute bulldog clip. So the first thing I did, and I had a paintbrush here. This is a little messy, but it's a great way to give all your metals kind of a uniform finish. So first I just kind of dry brush it with a chalk paint. And I like chalk paint because you don't have to prime, you don't have to use gesso, you just put that down. And it doesn't have to be too heavy. We're just kind of creating a base. And for the hinge clip, I'm going to do both sides. And you will get messy, so wear old clothes. If you worry about your nails, I don't, clearly. You might want to wear gloves. And while we're at it, I'm going to take these little charms and just do the same thing. And we'll use these throughout. Look at this nautilus shell. Is that not the most gorgeous thing? And this I might just leave white because I love that look, and then come in with some inks. We'll do some different things here to alter these charms. But you can see I'm not using tons of paint. It's like just dry brushing it on there. You don't want them super wet. You're just creating kind of a neutral background. These are all various beach treasures, and I will link to all of these embellishments in the tutorial. Love this lighthouse. Look at this, it's dimensional. That is so cool. I love lighthouses anyway. So I've just pulled a selection of these. Here's an octopus. He's gonna look awesome in copper, but this is a good little trick to know, because you know, we've got all these different finishes with these embellishments, and Mixed metals are cool. Sometimes I do mixed metals. I like that look as well. But for this, I thought it'd be fun to show you how to look at the mermaid. She's awesome. The detail on her is awesome. And look on the back too. What a gorgeous charm. I think this is Under the Sea. And there's a new Under the Sea coming to the shop. And then also I had this little wee bottle. This is in the shop, ButterBee Scraps, which by the way you can buy in the United States. They're not in Canada anymore. So you don't have to worry about international shipping, and you really ought to check them out. They have gorgeous stuff. But I just filled this up with some beach sand, whoops, and then took one of my itty bitty shells and stuffed it down in there. And this will become part of the vignette on the cover. So I wanted to show you that. And then it looks like I pulled one more, this beautiful sailboat charm. And we won't do all of these on camera, but I want to just show you the process so that if you want to do this, you can go back and do it yourself. So then the next thing, and I put down a little piece of old waste chipboard because this is it's a little messy, but worth it. This is Distress Paint Antique Bronze, and mine is just about gone. I'm hoping I have enough to finish these off. But I'm just going to put a little puddle of this. I'm going to use this little salvaged plastic from a snack. And now we're just going to, this is super thin. So we're just going to brush this over, kind of dry brushing the same way we did with the paint, not gobs and gobs of it, right? And then while this is set after patina oxide, this is an embossing enamel. And I'm just going to plunge this right down into, whoops. And then I want to brush some of it off. So I want some on, I want some off. And then move this out of the way. This is my little corral. This is score tape. The end, the cardboard, and it makes a great corral for embossing. Now this guy is hot because it's metal, so when you flip him over, do yourself a favor and use tweezers. So I hope I don't burn my fingers here, but look how gorgeous. I'm just going to set this aside. We'll look at it in a minute. It is like fire. It is so hot. I'm just going to set it over there to cool. We'll do this one more time. I'll show you with the little drawer pull. And again, I'm just going to take some of this paint. And I'm not covering it completely because I want some of that white to show through too. And then for this one, I need to bring in a funnel tray. And again, this time I'm just going to sprinkle the patina oxide over it. And of course this will look different every time, which is, I think, part of the fun. I like getting different effects. This is just a really fun way to alter metal, and it's not hard. It's not hard. Just going to isolate this little guy. See how cool that is? It looks like it's been corroded underwater. And then if you want to, you can always come back with little touches of your copper paint once it's cooled. It's super hot right now. And just brush on until it looks like what you want it to look like. But that's kind of the embellishment tutorial I had for you this time. We'll do this guy, and then we'll be done. But just the same process. And of course, if you want different looks, you can use, you know, different powders. See if I put him on the tweezers, because this guy will be tricky. So we'll do this guy together. I put him on my tweezers. I'm just going to dip him right in here. You want to really make sure you get that excess out Otherwise you won't be able to open it. The guy needs to cool. He is super hot. So I'm just going to let him rest right there. But look how cool he looks, all corroded. This is finally cooled enough for me to pick it up and show you. Isn't that gorgeous? So super fun. This is a great way to personalize embellishments so that when you do them, they're custom. No one else is going to have anything that's going to look exactly like this. Okay, folks, let's get started on this folio base. You're going to need 3 sheets of this 18-point grocery bag. This is 11 by 17. And we're going to cut the first piece like this to make our trifold base. And here's the expandable pocket. It's going to look like this. Of course, nothing is glued down right now, so I can demonstrate. Then this folds over and that folds over, and that's our base. So for this piece, the very first thing you want to do is, because this won't fit lengthwise on my cutter, so this is how I handle that. I bring in my score pal, and I know I want this to be 7 inches tall. So I'm going to score, and of course this only goes down to 12, so I flip it up like this and then pick up that 7 on the other side and score again. All right, and then we also need our dimensional pocket. So I'm going to score a 1/2 inch, oops, 1/2 inch along here. And you will really have to press down on this. This is heavy, heavy cardstock. So you don't have to be worried about breaking through unless you're using something pointy. But if you're using a regular stylus or bone folder, you can apply some pretty good pressure. So now I can fold this like this. Let me just bring in my bone folder and along this first line, and then, well, we'll just do the first line for now. So now it looks like this, okay? Then you're going to put this back on your tool, and you're going to score at 5 inches and at 6 inches. But for this 6 inch, well, just go 6 inches. Don't worry about that. I'm getting ahead of myself. And then we're going to go, we're going to fold this so we can fit it into the corner. And we're going to score again at 6 inches. Working with this big paper is nice, but you have to get creative. Okay, and then at 7 inches. Now, keep this an inch, but at this 7 inch score line, you're going to score an additional 1/2 inch in each spot. So it's going to look, I hope this will pick that up. But you can see if I lay this on top of it, what we've got here. Then you have to come in with your scissors. I could not do this on my cutter because the paper's just too long. And then if I fold it, the paper's too thick. The blade doesn't like it. So do you see these 2 1/2 inch flaps here? And then you've got this center. This is our pocket. We want to keep these flaps on either side, these 1/2 inch score lines on either side in place. So we're going to cut up on that first 5 inch score line. Up to the 7, and then along the 7, And if it's a little jagged, you can always come in and distress the edges. That would work well with this collection. So now you have this. Then come over here and do the same thing. Cut this corner out all the way up to that 7-inch score line, and then just take this piece out. That little piece in the corner doesn't want to turn loose. There we go. All right, and this becomes the base. These two little pieces we will use as flaps somewhere in the project. And then what you want to do here is just cut over and cut over, and then we're kind of accordion folding this. You see the pleat? And then this needs to fold in, but I have to look at it to make sure that I don't. Yeah. So we want to take this outside corner out on each side, and then cut in here. Can you see that? So what I've done basically is made a little tab. And then this will, let me think about this. I think actually we can take this whole piece out. Sorry. Yes. So this little corner that has the 4 scored squares, that just comes out. And I'll come back in with my scissors and clean up little rough edges and all of that. It's a lot of hand cutting for this. So accordion fold this and accordion fold this. See what that looks like? You've pleated the bottom, and then this will, oops. And then you've got an expandable pocket. Just kind of fun. So your adhesive will just go on these 2 flaps, but you want to line this first. And then here are your 1-inch spines. And of course I'll come back off camera and burnish all of these really well. But you can see that's the base, right? And keep these pieces together, set that aside. And now we're going to bring in the second piece. So the second piece is basically just 2 simple pieces like this, and these are folio inserts. So the first thing you want to do, let me turn my notes over. Okay, so on the short side you're going to score just like we did before. Make sure I'm in frame here. Yes. So much to remember when you're on camera, and I'm not complaining, I'm just explaining. So we're going to score at 4 inches, and we're going to score at 10 inches, and then flip it and score at 4 and score at 10. Then we're going to put it on the long side. So this top piece that is 4 inches by 17 inches, we're going to score this at 5. We're going to score it at, I like to move it up here. Just doing that little extra 1/8 inch will make it flip better. You don't have to do that, but I find that they fold better, especially with the super heavy cardstock. So we did 5, 5 1/8, 10, 10 1/8. And then flip it like this, come to this side, this long piece. This is going to be 1 3/4. And then again, get that little 1/8 inch just so that it flips nice for you. And then 10. I'm going to pick up one of these little 1/8 inch. Oops. All right. Actually, what I'm going to go ahead and do now, I can fold this like this, and I can cut this into 2 pieces. It'll be so much easier. So now that you've been able to fold this and cut it, you've got 2 pieces that are much easier to work with. It's less wieldy. So put the long piece on your board, and you're going to score at 5. You're going to score at 10. I came in and added a little 1/8 of an inch here at the 10, just to kind of help it. I also did the same thing at the 5. And then bump this up into the corner and score again at 5 and 5 1/8. Let me put my little 1/8 inch. So this becomes a little tab topped folio. Set that aside. Bring in the second piece. This piece we're going to set on the scoring tool, and we're scoring this at 1 3/4, 1 7/8, because that's going to be our little side tab. Then we're going to go 6 3/4, and again find an 1/8 of an inch. Mine doesn't have 1/8 of an inch all across, so I have to look for one. Then butt that up into the corner, score again at 5. And this is a bad score line here, ignore that one. This is how I erase score lines. And once it's covered with designer paper, you'll never even know that was there. So 5, there's a little tip for you, if you've ever wondered what to do with a bad score line. And 5 1/8. And then this is going to fold like this with a side fold tab. Okay, so that's the second page. Set this aside. Now we're going to tackle this third page. This is your third sheet of 11 by 17 grocery bag. And just take your ruler and mark off along the top, because this will save you trouble in the long run. You want to mark off at 5 3/4, 10 and 15. And then put this in your cutter. And I've got this industrial Fiskars rotary cutter, which handles this heavy paper amazingly well. And you're just going to cut these strips. Along those marks. And excuse me while I put my head in the frame. So now you have these 4 pieces like this. All right. From this first piece that you cut at 5 3/4, you're going to cut an additional piece off, and I made a pencil mark on the short side at 4 1/2. So just put that in your cutter. So this page, and I'm going to mark this so that I don't forget, this is going to be your right hand flap. And you're going to score 2 1/2 inch score lines on the left. Okay? And that's going to be your right hand flap. Then this larger piece that is 5 3/4 by 6 1/2, this is going to be your left hand flap. And I just find it helps. I mean, I create these things on the fly. I don't do all this planning when I'm just working by myself, but when I do a tutorial for you, I have to pay more attention. I don't get to just free create. So you want 2 1/2-inch score lines on the left. This piece, 4.5 by 5 3/4, 2 1/2-inch score lines on the left. This piece, 5 3/4 by 6.5, 2 1/2-inch score lines on the left. This 2-inch, I think this is a 2-inch piece, you're going to cut to 8 inches. This is a side pocket. And you're going to score a 1/2-inch flap on each side. And this will all make sense when we start putting everything together. Don't, this piece stays as it is. We're going to score this, and this becomes our insert. And I think I scored this, it doesn't really matter how you score it, but I wanted it to be kind of staggered. So I would say score it at, let's say, if we go at 4.5, okay? And that gives you room for a 4x4 photo here, and then a larger 4x6 photo there. So this is the pocket insert. And you're going to score on the long side at 4.5. Okay? Then this piece we're going to cut. Are you hanging with me? At 7. Actually, we're going to cut it at 6 7/8. I'm sorry, this is 6 7/8. And we want it to be 4 7/8 inches wide. So this becomes our hidden pocket. And this is 4 7/8 by 6 7/8. And this is the piece that you're going to use your oval die to cut this shaped pocket and tab out of. So that's the hidden pocket. That's going to go on the left. And then you've got this little piece right here. Let me erase my pencil mark. And we can do whatever we want. We can make it be a photo mount. We can turn this into another little flap. We'll leave this as an open option moving forward. So that's all the pieces. Now we can begin to create the actual folio. And you can use this, now you've got the recipe, and you're welcome. You can use this with any paper collection. I just ask that you don't use this for a design team project unless you actually link back to my YouTube video. That's all that I ask. And you cannot make these and sell these, and you cannot use these to teach a class. If you want to teach a class, talk with me and we'll talk about a licensing fee. But these are my own original designs, and I spend a tremendous amount of time putting them together. I'm happy to give them to you as a gift for your own personal use. But if you're going to monetize them or use them in a design team project, that's a whole different story, and you can contact me at kathybydesign@hotmail.com, and we can talk about options. So thanks for understanding that. I really do appreciate it. Now let me clear up this mess and we'll get going. All right, I tried to think of what was the most logical way to help you guys put this together. Like I said, when I do this, I just dive in and create, but it's a whole different thing to show someone else. So I thought we would start with this center pocket. And the first thing we're going to do is cut from your Sealand paper a 5 7/8 inch by about 5 inch piece of paper, and you can use whatever you like. I wanted this lighthouse, and we're just going to adhere this. And obviously it's too short for the page, but that's okay because our pocket is going to cover most of it. Oops. Sorry about that. So that goes down first. That's the very first thing we do. Now, we've pleated our sides on our pocket. We did that before. We're just going to place adhesive on these two flaps. Don't put any adhesive on the base pocket, but then just fold this down, and you're going to have to hold it in place. You could use score tape. Score tape would probably go a little quicker. I'm just going to clean up any little glue that ooped out there. And one thing you can do, I love these little binder clips. I have a whole bunch of them in my shop. They're like extra pairs of hands. So just put that there, and we'll let that sit a minute, and hopefully take hold. Burnishing always helps. This glue does set up really quickly, so it's usually not a problem. So while that's doing that, I'm going to show you how to do the little insert that we created. This is that side fold insert that we created, and I've cut some papers. The first thing you need to do is cut a little 1/8 inch off this end panel so that everything will fold up nice and neat. And then the next thing you're going to do is cut two pieces at 1 1/4 by 5 3/4. These are going to be your flaps, your magnetic flaps, and then you're going to cut 6 pieces at 4 3/4 by 5 3/4, and that's to line the panels. So the first thing I want to show you how to do is how to set your magnets, and these are neodymium, small neodymium magnets. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, from ButterBee Scraps. And they do not have sticky on the back, but these little guys are strong. I really like them. I've used them a couple times already, and they really hold, and they're a great size, but they're way stronger than the basic gray magnets that I usually use. So I'm going to place this first one in the center of my flap. Then I'm going to take the next one, and it will flip itself to the matching side. Then I'm going to take another little piece of score tape, and hopefully I can separate this without too much trouble, because I need to have sticky to help set this where it's supposed to go. So I'm just peeling this off, and I'm just putting the sticky on the actual magnet. Then I'm just going to fold this closed. Make sure everything is straight before you do that, and then carefully pick it up, and it's placed your magnet exactly where you want it to be. Now, I always add an extra little piece of score tape just as insurance, but there you go. So now remove this strip and just adhere your flap piece that you've already cut, inked. I used a stub punch, crocodile stub. I think they still make it. A lot of my tools are really old, so you might have some issue finding them, but I think they do still make the stub. It's a pretty popular edge. And then just burnish this down. Give it a little tool, especially around that magnet, because you want that magnet, you want that paper around the magnet to really adhere. Then just close this and put your front panel on and you're all set. So that is the only tricky thing there. The rest of it is just lining the pages with your pre-cut panels, which I'm pretty sure you can do on your own. So we'll just set this aside and then bring this in. By now, our pocket should be set in place. And I just cut another panel. This one is 5 7/8, and I'll tell you in a minute. This is 5 7/8 by 2 3/4, and that just covers that pocket. And then our little folio will tuck inside nice as you please. So that's a really cool feature. I think the next thing we'll work on are these flap pages off to the side, and I'm going to cut, these are 1 inch, so I'm going to cut 7/8 inch panels to cover my inside spines. I just like to do that. You don't have to. Okay, so if you're ready, we'll get started on this left-hand flap page. And this has a lot of moving parts, so you might want to take notes. I highly recommend it. The first thing we're going to do is just line just a little piece. And this, I think I cut 4 7/8 inches wide. And it really only needs to be about 2.5 to 3 inches tall, because this is just going to line the space behind our pocket page. And I already made a mistake. It's very hard to do this, guys. We have our flap page, and the very first thing, good thing this glue hasn't set up yet. So you're going to fold it so you have your 1/2 inch spine here and another 1/2 inch flap here. Place your adhesive along this flap and then center it and line the score line up with the edge of your paper. And just check the sides to make sure you're flush and even, and then just burnish that down. That's the very first thing. Add that flap. That way everything is hidden. Now you can put this piece of paper in over that. And then the next thing is our pocket that we created. And remember, we cut this with a die, and this is going to fit over. And you see now you've got this really lovely pocket feature. So when you adhere this, and I've used temporary adhesive to help me hold it in place. Let me just get that off of there, because that will interfere with our insert. Okay. All right. So to cut this piece, I cut this piece 1/8 of an inch smaller than the base. So it is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. Then I just placed my die along the edge, lined it up as best I could. It's not quite perfect, but it's pretty good. And then we're just going to put a very thin bead of adhesive, and you want very thin because we have to get our insert in here. And then line this up. And for this, come all the way down to the bottom of the page, but don't go over your scored lines, and try to keep everything straight. I highly recommend straight. And then just burnish that down. And I've lost my little, there it is. So there's that. And we're looking really good. The next thing is the insert. And the liners for this, the short flaps are, well, they're all the same width, okay? They're all 4 inches, but the short flaps are 4 1/4, and the long flaps are 6 1/4. And this is going to tuck back in behind here, but I want to let that adhesive set up before I start messing with this, but that's where that's going to go. Then on this page, which is now the far left-hand flap, we're going to create a pocket and insert. And for this, I've cut a panel of my designer paper. This measures 4 3/4 by 6 3/8. And where did I fling my glue bottle? Here it is. I'm just going to adhere this down. Center it. Stay away from the fold. You don't want to mess up with your ability for all of this to fold together. And then we're going to create a pocket. And this pocket is just about 5.5 by 3.5. And I've scored flaps, 1/2-inch flaps on the side and the bottom. Again, I use that oval die to cut the shape, and then we just fold this flap in, place adhesive in our corners, and then just adhesive along each side. And this is going to sit right down here, just perfectly. And there's my other little dude. All right. So then we made the insert together, and I've already covered most of it. I just wanted to show you again how I've set my magnets, right? Because you want this to be folded up before you set this magnet. So remove this tape. And again, I use that little stub punch to create shaped corners just to keep everything consistent. And we're just going to line this up. Burnish it. And in just a minute, I'll give you the measurement. Get a little overage here. I don't want that to stick. And then remove this tape. Looks good. And then burnish this down. Clean up that little overage. And then this will close like that. And this opens out like this, and it's covered on the back as well. So these panels are, and you're going to need 6 of these at 3 7/8 by 4 7/8. And you're going to need 2 of them at 3 7/8 by 1.5. And then that fits down in this pocket, just like that. Isn't that fun? So we're moving right along. Mostly I'm just concerned about showing you how to build the basic mechanisms. This is not going to be a tutorial where I show you how to decorate each page and all that stuff. Oh yeah, that's what I needed to show you. I knew there was something. The insert. Where did it go? Yeah. So for the insert, we've got this really fun little oval piece that we've cut out of our papers. How fun is it to turn this into a tab? So I'm just going to add adhesive on the back. I knew I was forgetting something. This just adds a really fun extra little feature. So I'm just going to line this up along this bottom edge, flip it over, clean up my mess here. And then I've also cut a piece, because you know we did this twice. Let me just ink this. And this will fit over this part. We've got that that makes just a really pretty little decorative turn tab. I love that. And you know, you're not wasting, which I also love. So then this, maybe we can get this in the pocket now. That glue should have set up enough that we can slip this right in. And look at that. Isn't that fun? I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Okay, awesome. And it looks like it wants to flap now. We just need to burnish it down real good to encourage it to close. See, that's already way better. So this folds into this, and this folds into this. So, and this is our cover. You see how this is coming together? Let me get stuff together for this page and I'll be back. So let's get started on the right-hand flap. And the very first thing we're going to do is add this little, where's my ruler? 4.5 by 5 3/4 inch flap, the one that we scored the 2 lines on. And we're going to adhere this this way, which I know looks backwards, but you just have to trust me. So we're just putting adhesive on that outer flap, centering it, and then we'll just line it up and burnish it down. And that folds, oops, she says. Let's try it this way. Need a little more adhesive on there. Leave enough room for that fold to get around the corner. So I'm pulling out just a tiny bit. And burnish that down well. Okay. Now we come back here. And this is going to be a side pocket. And for that we scored this 8-inch long piece with 1/2 inch flaps on each side. And we're going to line this with a piece of the rope paper. So let me just put the liner on real quick. Just like that. And then again, I'm going to flip this over and lay it flat because it's just a whole lot easier to burnish down. Now I'm just placing adhesive on the 1/2 inch flaps and then just a tiny bit intermittently along this bottom edge. And this is going to adhere. Oops, but not yet, she says. First, yeah, we have to put our liner paper down. This is why it's so hard. If I'm doing this on my own, I don't ever make these mistakes because I'm just doing it as I go. It's doing it, taking it apart, coming back, putting it back together again that you forget little bits and pieces. But that was not a disaster, so we're okay. Now we're just going to adhere this. Try to make sure I'm straight. And in the corners. Looks pretty good. I'll burnish that down. Now this becomes a pocket. You can put little tags or whatever. I'm going to have to add some more adhesive that's set just long enough to, actually maybe it's going to be okay. Yeah, I think if I just leave it be, it'll catch. So this little flap, this is the piece. This is the 4. So we're going to take this little piece, we're going to adhere the flap back behind the pocket, and then you've got a little turn tab here, which is lots of fun. So I'll have to come back and line all of this. I'm going to leave this craft, mainly because I can't find the little piece, but you could also cut those pieces and cover that if you wanted to. So that's where this little flap is going to go. You're just going to adhere this 1-inch strip inside the pocket, and you can do it down low. If you like it there, you can do it in the center, you can do it at the top, but that's where that little piece is going to go. So now that we've solved that mystery, we can get on to this part of the project, which is adding a, okay. First thing, I've got another turn tab here. So I want to adhere that. Try to keep it straight. And then I've got a piece cut for the back side. We'll just ink up. And these are just little pieces left over from cutting pockets and stuff, but I hate to throw them away. They're pretty. And they make a neat feature. So this is going to back up to that. Just like that. And then these hot air balloons go here. And I forgot to ink. There we go with that. Really pretty. Then flip this out. And you can see how all these pieces are going to work together. It's really fun. To me, this is like doing a puzzle. I really enjoy making these. I forgot to cover this, but you can see where I cut the tag. And this is going to fit right over here on this panel. And then we can put something cute in that pocket. And then I also forgot, it looks like, and I just broke a nail. It's a Monday. I forgot to cut anything. Oh no, there I didn't. I thought I did. I want to put these pretty seashells here. Let's neaten this up a bit. Like it like this way. And a lot of these are just scrap pieces that I've cut to fit, or they were already cut and they fit. So just line that up there. And I can see where I didn't quite line this up perfectly. This is what you do to fix that. You made it disappear. There you go. So I need to cut this pocket piece, but this piece will load in here. And that's really all the mechanics. I don't have any other mechanisms for this, but it will close like this, and you'll decorate your cover, you'll decorate your spines, you'll put a piece on the back, and it will be awesome. So I'm going to finish decorating this, and then I'll come back and kind of show you tips and tricks for what I did and why I did it. So don't go away. Okay, so let's start adding embellishments to this really awesome project. Here's my mixed media cover. I'll just go over this very quickly. It is 5x7. I distressed and inked a 5x7 panel of blue cardstock and then cut a slightly smaller panel, did the same thing, distressed and inked. Then this is one of the 4x6 that I just matted on a double layer of cardstock. Put that over that. This is a wooden frame that I had in my stash, and I just hit it with various inks and things to give it that corroded look. This is a Tim Holtz seahorse that I cut from chipboard, embossed with an embossing folder, and then hit with bunches of inks and embossing powders and paint and you name it until I kind of got the look I wanted. This is some old Gypsy Soul laser cuts seaweed chipboard that I found in my stash. Spanish moss, sisal. This is also Gypsy Soul laser cuts. And then I just spattered the whole thing with white paint, diluted white paint. So I want this little charm to, this bulldog clip, to hang on the edge of the sentiment. And this is a fishing part of a fishing line that I found beachcombing one day after a storm. And I'm going to take some of our beautiful charms, put them on jump rings. And let's take this starfish. Let's start with the starfish. I'm just going to loop my jump ring here and close it up with my pliers. And I'll finesse that once I'm off camera. It's really hard to do without putting my head over everything. And then I think the other thing I want on there is maybe this gorgeous nautilus shell. So again, I'm just gonna put it on a jump ring. And I'm gonna loop it through this, whoops, easier said than done. I'm going to loop it through this loop, and that's why you finish both sides of these charms, because when they dangle, and that's what we all want, is to see them dangling there, they flip around. And I can maybe do one more right up here in that loop. I like to do things in threes. So for that, let's do another small one. Let's do this precious oyster shell with the pearl in it. I like that. And again, it's going to loop it through. This is really heavy gauge wire. I almost couldn't cut it with my Tim Holtz scissors, and they tackle pretty much anything. But I just thought it was cool to add a found treasure to these embellishments from ButterBee Scraps. And this would be easier if I take the clip off, Kathy. There, just push that close. So now we got this really fun little dangle. Hooks on to our little sentiment panel, and it's just going to dangle off the front cover. I just think that is the coolest. I love it. Now, for over here, I have options. I wanted to, where did it go? Yeah. I wanted to build like a little nest in here with shells, and I wanted to look like it washed up on the shore. So I've got Spanish moss, and I've got some sisal. Take our little bottle, and the whole idea is to kind of wrap the sisal around the top of the bottle and just tie off a knot. It just adds that little extra something something. Of course, it's tiny, so it's hard to do, but there. Yeah, I like that. And then just trim off the long ends. That kind of looks like it's been floating in the ocean for a while. And here's a tip. I added just a tiny bit of Dry's Clear adhesive to the cork before I put it in the bottle, because that way you don't have to worry about the cork coming out. And look how cute that is down in there. So I want this to sit, well, we'll figure that out. Let's build this little nest first. And I've got a bunch of different little fibers. Some of these are things I picked up on the beach. Some of these are, you know, like Spanish moss and sisal and stuff like that. But I want this to look very much like it blew up from a storm. So I'm going to take my hot glue and I'm going to put it down inside of my drawer pull. I'm going to tuck this Spanish moss down in there. And I'm liking this already. You can see where yesterday I added pearls and all of that. I'm going to put a little more hot glue in there. Here's a great tip. These little finger cots are great for when you're working with hot glue and you have to do things like this. It really saves your fingertips. So that's cool. Trim some of these It's like plucking eyebrows, right? Sometimes they get a little crazy. You gotta trim them back a little bit. All right. Took that off. Yeah, I like that a lot. These are ones that I picked up on the beach, various beaches. And we're just gonna start building a little vignette inside this. Tucking our shells in. This guy's great. Maybe one more. Maybe one of these pretty, yeah, that one's really beautiful. I love seashells. I love to beach comb. And I'm blessed because I live in North Carolina where there are fabulous beaches and you can really find some treasures if you hit the beach after a storm. So put that little glass bottle down in there. And then I want some different shapes. Oh yeah, here's great. These are like my favorites, these little guys. I don't know what they're called, but they sure are pretty. I'm just gonna hold that in place for a minute. And then this little guy at the base of the bottle. These are so tiny, I almost need to use my tweezers, but I think I can get away with my fingers. Yeah, I love that. And then maybe over in here, let's do a shell upside down, like this. And let's put a pearl in the center. That's kind of fun. That one's too big, but that's a good size. Oops. Yeah, I think that's good. I don't think I want to do much else because that looks pretty happy to me. I may come back and change some things around. I might add, I kind of want something up here on the side. Oh, that's perfect. Dreaming of the sea. That's perfect. And because it's silver, instead of, I did hit it a little bit with just embossing powder, but I couldn't do the whole paint emboss thing with this because it covered up the letters. So I think what I'm gonna do is just put some Dry's Clear on the back of this. And let me get a little bit, just to create a spot for it so it looks more organic. Put just a tiny bit of this Spanish moss right here. And then just set this right there in the corner. Oh, I'm very happy. I'm really liking this. I hope you can see. I hope I didn't have my big head in the way. It's hard to do this without seeing what you're doing. So yeah, I'm really pleased with this. Look how beautiful these charms are. And I'm going to use them on the inside as well. So we're just going to set our cover aside for the minute. I always put the cover on the very last thing because that way it doesn't get all messed up. Let me do a little cleanup. I'll be right back. Okay, friends, we're down to the last thing that I want to show you, and that is how to add a bangle on the spine. I will tell you that this is just, I cut the spines from the cover of the paper collection, and then where there was writing, I just covered it up with little scraps of paper, and I think it looks really neat. Anyway, I used a standard hole punch to add a hole, and then folded this little piece of braided jute through this, like this. And then we're just going to tie a knot, a simple knot. So I've just strung these found pieces of fishing line through here, and I want to put this clasp, and then I want to pinch this down so that hopefully this will also stay closed. I think that's better. And now we're going to bring in the last of our little charms. Actually, I'm going to have to dig out some more because I got enthusiastic on the inside of the album, but that's okay. I have these really cool ones that I bought specifically. I asked Luann to send me specifically. Look at these. Don't they make you think of the bobbers that the crab and lobstermen use to mark where their my brain's not working, where their traps are. So let's find a jump ring. I just love these. I know they're probably not made to be used with beach, but they were just so cool. I could not resist. Just looping this through the jump ring, and then I'm gonna loop this one through here. Pinch it closed. So there's one, and then I want to put one more of these on there. Golly, I love these. I think they are so cool. Oh, that's so cute. Okay, and then what did I do with my other? I've got a ship's wheel. Okay, and then I've got this little sailboat. You can get these jump rings at ButterBee too. Oops. All right, well, I'm going to finish this up and then I'll be back. All right, the last step is always putting the cover on, and I've done that. So we are at the end. Let me take these clips off that I had put there to help the glue set up. But here we are, all finished. Cover on, all of our bangles on the spine. Look at these little globes. I just love those. I love all these little bangles. Such a cool spine on this one. Love, love, love. And then the ribbon closure. I did wrap the base with ribbon before I put any paper layers down. And the way I do that is just score tape wrapped all the way around. Then you put your papers over, and it's neat and tidy, and the papers help hold the ribbon in place. So I would be a little ginger with this because some of the glue is not completely set, but you can see how we built our little vignette here in our little corroded drawer pull. Some shells and pearls, all these pretty elements on the front, and then another bangle on the front of the album. I just love this. So we untie the ribbon, and here we are, all finished up. Another chipboard piece. Here's our little finished tags. I just put a spot of hot glue there to hold the little tails in place. I love how these turned out. So cute, and these little charms are just the perfect finishing touch. Love, love. Our little mermaid is shy. She keeps hiding, but I guess that's what mermaids do, so that's normal. So these go in the pocket here. This flips. Here's our first flip, another flip page with a turn tab. Here's a little ticket with a couple of images held on with one of these lovely little bulldog clips. Probably not in frame. Let me pull over. And then I've just had some chipboard in my stash that I did some mixed media treatment to. This is a wooden tag that I've had forever. I don't even know where I got it. I just know I have it, and someone might have given it to me, but I finished this up in the same style as the other tags with the twine at the top, a little octopus, so cute, and a seahorse, and more of the dirty sand. This just slips into this little pocket. Then we come to the center pocket, and I didn't really do much of anything here. I just tucked a couple of tags in. but I love this image, so I didn't want to complicate it. But there's our pull-out, beautiful, beautiful, room for more photos in here because of that lovely expandable pocket design. Just some little tuck-in tags. So then we'll come over one more, and here are our flip pages. So fun, and a little piece of chipboard here, but lots of room for photos. And then, wow, guys, we flip again, and here is another pocket with, remember that little extra piece we had? Just turned it into a photo mount. And when you pull that up, you can see the sailboat, which is so pretty. And then this is our other little fold-out feature. Really fun. And those magnets are awesome. I'm going to get more of those because they really work. So I did a little chipboard border here on our turn tab. Here's our pull-out page, room for 4x6 photos, and one more photo here, and this slips into this pocket. And of course, you could do a photo or journaling here. So that's the project, y'all. That's it. That's everything all done. And I will have a photo gallery at the end. Oh, and here's the back. I used the rope paper on the back. I'll have a photo gallery following everything. Whoops, picking up little bits and pieces. I need to clean up my work table. It is really bad. Anyway, thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please let me know. I love to hear your comments, and I do respond to every comment you make. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to have you along as a follower for future projects. And now I am going to clean up my mess, and then I'm going to get my craft on. Bye.